Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens with your host, Jake and Scott, and we are excited to bring back a two-time guest now, Ricky and Rick Johnson, to talk all things 15 Stars and especially their brand new First West series. So sit back and buckle into the latest episode of the Bourbon Lens. Rick and Ricky, you all make my job so easy when it comes to hosting because you have an easy name and it's very similar. So I don't have to remember two names. Just add a Y and we're good. So thank you just for being an easy guest. That's the most important thing.
We
No
planned
problem.
that way ahead.
Yeah. A long time ago, right?
Yeah. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it. Good to see you
Really
again.
excited to have you back. Scott, I know you probably did a little bit of research prior to. Do you remember when the guys were on last?
Oh goodness, it's been a while, but it was way back. I think it was like mid 200s, so maybe like
150
a
episodes ago.
year and a half ago, 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so
It's crazy. I was telling the guys before you hopped on, it feels like they were here just yesterday because you all have been pumping out whiskey left and right since you all kind of came on the scene, and we were kind of half joking, but being serious. Like, you all have been cleaning up at award shows year in, year out. So talk to us a little bit about just the growth of the brand over the last, year and a half, because it seems like it's been explosive.
Maybe I'll start a little bit and let Ricky pitch in, but we really got a great start, to be honest. I mean, our very first bourbon was released in April of 22. And it went on that fall to be a finalist for Best Bourbon of the Year at the San Francisco Spirits Competition. So, a pretty out of the box, amazing thing, a 14 and 15-year-old blend that we loved. And that really kind of set us on a course, quite frankly, that made us, it blew our mind, to be honest. I mean, how could our first bourbon be a finalist? And, we won't go through the whole dog and pony show, but I convinced Ricky that we actually hadn't probably won. And then we read in Forbes that actually we had. And so, I mean, it's kind of amazing. And so we had a good trip off that, but it really kind of, it helped us recalibrate what we wanted to do from the start. And we didn't really, when you start, you don't know. But we started saying, hey, if we can do that, then how do we just raise the bar overall? And we really kind of went for it. And we really, really, really work. Ricky leads the blending, but we really blend those. It's such an advantage to us to be able to play with it right before it goes in the bottle, right? To twist it and turn it and turn it into something special. So that's been our mode since. We've had a lot of releases, some amazing, you mentioned the sherry cask early on. That was, probably the one that put us a little bit on the map when that won Best Finished Bourbon and Best Bourbon at the New York Wine and Spirits Competition. And so that was awesome. So, but we have now 24 either finalists for Best of Bourbon or Best of Bourbon category winners.
Wow.
Or rye. We got rye that's done pretty fantastic. So it's been an amazing run, to be honest. And it set ourselves up for trying to produce. We have one goal when we put something in a bottle, and that's to produce the very best bourbon that we can make. And nothing else gets in the way of that.
It's good direction. Ricky,
Keep
you
it
got anything
simple.
to add to that?
I
Didn't leave a lot of room, did I?
Yeah, that's how can I go more than make the very
Long
best bourbon
story.
possible? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and with that trajectory that sherry cask set us on, while it set the bar high, we've been working hard to continue that and use that as our measure of what we want. And speaking of competitions, we're shooting for those best ofs. That's the goal in everything we do, to make a best of whiskey and sweep the competition.
A gold is a disappointment.
Yep.
Yeah.
But,
Wow.
you got to shoot somewhere. So we said, and we're not doing this at super high volume, right? And honestly, that's an advantage too. If we were trying to do super high volume, that changes the game too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tougher.
Yeah.
Tougher.
100%.
Which is what craft is about, really. It's about how do you take a more crafted, a more artisan, a more hand crafted approach to it. And so, it's, you got to play to your advantage. We're not going to beat the biggest guys at their game, right? And so we got to find a way that we can stand out in our little small niche of the world.
Well, I think it's cool too that you guys aren't afraid to
do finished whiskey. You're not afraid to do unfinished whiskey, straight bourbons and ryes and all various age statements. Like you're playing all over the map and just figuring out what's good, right? I mean, you've got a lot to play with, and so far it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah. I would have to echo that. I mean, it's worked out really well, and so well that you had to figure out how to get more of an everyday sipper in people's,
Yeah.
Everyday lineup. And so
Well,
hence this brand new, beautiful lineup you all have for the first West series. This is the Toasted Oak, and there's two others. There's the small batch and the extra aged that you all have put out. Scott has the other two from the lineup perspective. You know, these come in. Here we go. Ricky bringing some joy to the and Rick. There we go. We just make it a
There's
full.
the whole
It's a whole lineup. We love it. It's a really cool bottle. It's a really cool story, I think, to create these and have the humble beginnings of your popcorn business into like really entering that into what you all are creating now. So what's it like to have your own distillate that you all help craft, put into these blends, some and for people to experience what a little bit of your family legacy as well.
Yeah, bourbon is a patient game, and we're not very patient people, so we were very ready for it to be put in a bottle. But at the same time, we're very willing to wait if necessary, and we did want to give our own whiskeys, our own distillate time to get to an age where we felt like the barrel gave enough flavor but didn't overpower those unique corn profiles. So really happy with where our own distillate's at right now, and of course incredibly excited to have it in a product. It's a big step for us.
yeah. And Ricky
Yeah.
mentioned, we're impatient, which is really what brought those ultra age 15 stars things to the table. We actually started with distilling. And and we started with our black heirloom corn that we use in black jewel popcorn. And then, we started distilling red corns we've got a number of corns that we grow for that company: red, blue, black, white, yellow, vintage corns that we've been growing for that company. And we started distilling them, and then we thought, okay, I mean, this is a long game, right? And so we thought, why not go out there with some really high age stuff and really start to learn and understand this business? Because it's like every other business, there's a lot of nuance to it, right? And honestly, it's given us a chance to explore that very top end of whiskey, like I talked about. And we always knew that we'd be coming back to some younger, more approachable, more price approachable whiskeys that we could share with a much broader audience, right? Because there's a lot of people, honestly, right? $139 is kind of our low end, and $279 our high end. We got some in the middle there, but when you're talking about a couple $100, there's a lot of people just not. We're not doing that. So we always knew we'd bring this forward, and it's we got the first of them, but we got a whole slate of really interesting whiskeys that we've been distilling that will come out over the next few years.
And you all lay down only at Bardstown, or do you all lay down at other places as well?
Only at Bardstown.
Nice. So when you all got into this and said, you know what, we can do some partnership stuff, and you got a great partner from a barrel sourcing perspective, and then you were able to get in right with Danny and the contract team at Bardstown and start really kind of creating what your distillate was going to be for the future 4 or 5 years down the road. So and how long have you all been laying down? I guess that's my question.
November 2019.
Yeah. I think that was pre-Danny,
Yeah.
I think. And yeah, I was working with kind of the old team at Bardstown.
Mm,
And we had looked at a couple other distilleries then that might work it. And really, Bardstown stood out, and they continue to stand out. I mean, they just do an outstanding job with us, and we can put really anything together that we want to do, and they support it and help make it work. And so, yeah, it's been wonderful on the distilling side. Really, on the sourcing side, though, they didn't do any of that with us. I mean, we just picked up the phone and started making industry calls, and so
yeah.
that's just
Well, I know you like partnered with Jeff for a little bit. I've seen your story with Brindiamo.
Yeah.
a little bit there. And
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. And then, partnering with someone like Steve Nally, right, who's been the industry veteran for
Absolutely.
50 plus years, and Nick Smith, that young gun approach, kind of working hand in
Yeah.
hand to make some stuff happen. And it's got to be a lot of fun to get the old head knowledge and new head knowledge.
I mean, we don't hesitate to say it could not be a better relationship.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's awesome. And they really told us that. The old team and the new team said at the beginning, kind of treat it like your distillery and interact with who you need to interact with, when you need to interact. And it's quite frankly just been amazing. We couldn't have done it without them, I think is fair to say.
Well, that's awesome, because it's led to a brand new innovation that you all have. And the name has been kind of associated with 15 Stars for a while, right? With the first West bourbon and rye that you all have put out in the traditional bottles. So talk to us a little bit about, as I reach back here very carefully, for the brand new bottle design with the new label. What's the inspiration here? What are you trying to convey to the consumer, right? Because when people go to Total Wine, Liquor Barn, here locally, wherever, what are you trying to do to make sure that the consumer says, you know what, 15 Stars First West is the bottle I want to pick up?
Yeah. Maybe I'll lead on the bottle a little bit. And Ricky, fill in the holes. We got our old 15 Stars bottle has a lot of history to it, like an old coin that had 15 stars from 1795, the very first coinage of the U.S. And so we've always been really history oriented with 15 stars, a 15 star flag, 1795, celebrating Kentucky as the 15th state. So we've had this deep interest in really understanding Kentucky, right? What is it that makes bourbon bourbon and Kentucky bourbon Kentucky bourbon? And so we wanted to get right down into it. And honestly, what's shaped that bottle is we built this collection of items, and I got a couple of things. I mean, here's a pistol made in Bardstown, Kentucky, in the time of that 15 star flag. It shows some of the craftsmanship that was going on in that period of time. And so we kind of celebrate that craftsmanship of handmade items, kind of like the craftsmanship of the whiskeys that we put together. And one of the things we found were some old bottles.
Yeah.
And it's an original old bottle, the first bottles ever produced in Kentucky and used for whiskey, and made in Louisville, Kentucky, pre-1850.
Wow.
Beautiful ribs on it. Has an eagle embossed in it. Just a gorgeous little bottle. And we thought, well, we want to keep our brand rooted in Kentucky. And so we made this bottle to imitate the original. We didn't copy, because copy is an art and artisanship, right? I mean, it's a little different. It honors the old, but it really fits for today. And we got a great firm, kind of like Bardstown, right? Stranger and Stranger, bottle design firm that we got to set. We sent the old bottles and we said, hey, our request to them was honor that, but make something that is so good looking that somebody wants to own one of those without even knowing what's in it. And I think they did it, I mean, so we made it out of recycled glass to give it the old look. We got the ribs on the top. There's bubbles in the glass like the old glass had. It's unique with the blue glass. I don't think there's another bourbon in blue glass. It's a cool bottle with a cool design. Little things like the finish on the neck off of a couple of the old bottles that we had, so mimicked off of the original old bottle. You see on this part, so on the design part, 15 stars on the neck, which is also on this stopper top. That's off of a Kentucky token minted in 1795, celebrating Kentucky as the 15th state.
Wow.
And you go to the bottom of the bottle, and you kind of got the same kind of thing. You got 15 stars, rays of glory. Off of the backside, on the other side of this coin would be George Washington, also 1795. Celebrate 15 stars for the 15 states at the time. So we wanted to make sure it's a 15 stars bottle crafted by 15 stars. So we got the 15 stars iconography on it. But we wanted to celebrate Kentucky as America's first West. And so the image on the front is an image of Daniel Boone leading the first settlers through the Cumberland Gap out of Virginia and into Kentucky. So first settlers, 1775. Kentucky becomes, George Washington is president, really kind of the history we all know of the country. Starts the vision of the West, the first vision of the West that became manifest destiny and took the U.S. across the continent, started with Kentucky. And I think one of the cool things about it that relates to bourbon, so it's not just celebrating Kentucky, but as America's first West opened, how did these settlers claim ground from Virginia, to have a stake, right? And they had to grow a crop of corn. That was it. So you couldn't just go over there and you couldn't just buy ground. You had to settle on it, right? Build a cabin and grow a crop of corn. And what did you do with a crop of corn to store it through the winter?
You fermented
Distilled it. And so, we're celebrating kind of the birth of the West in Kentucky and the birth of bourbon. Bourbon County was established in Kentucky in 1785. So that's where it started, right? Honoring the French for the help in the Revolutionary War. Bourbon County, Kentucky, distilling there. It's going up and down the river and becomes bourbon, whiskey from Bourbon County, bourbon. So really it's just, I think what we've done is kind of packaged a whole story in a beautiful bottle that celebrates Kentucky and the birth of bourbon. And we want to, and the craftsmanship of Kentucky. So long-winded. Apologize for all that, but we're
that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
the history behind that is unique. And I think people, if you care about bourbon, these are the things you should be caring about, right? And especially if you care about Kentucky bourbon, right? Like, I feel like bourbon is America's native spirit, but like Kentucky bourbon is unique, right? It's got the story, the history. And so I love that, as you all kind of take your spin on it, I love that you're honoring the heritage and the past of it to create the story, for you and your next generations that will work with to create the next, whatever Ricky wants to do with the family down the line.
Well, and if you don't care about the history, you've still got an awesome bottle.
Amen.
But it's all in there. And I guess what we say too, and Ricky will talk about some of the whiskeys because he kind of leads that blending. But in some ways, if we put that much thought in the bottle, what we can guarantee you is we're putting that much thought and more in the whiskey that goes in it and how we go about it. So we're not taking the easy route, as you can tell, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't go find a wine bottle and stick a label on it.
Thank you. So Ricky, like as you all kind of looked at your inventories and your all stock, right? And you're like, hey, we want to put approachable whiskeys, from an affordability perspective into these gorgeous bottles. As you kind of start to think about, hey, how do we put this together, right? Small batch may have been probably the easiest option, right? Hey, let's batch some whiskeys together. Let's get a standard profile and start to move forward. How do you look at the extra aged or even the toasted, right? Because you all are very transparent about what you all put on these bottles. I'm looking at the toasted because that's the bottle I have, 5, 6, and 7-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskeys, in this, historic bottle as your dad just explained. But how do you all go about selecting what you all wanted to do to put liquid into glass?
So, as with our other blends, it starts just with experimentation. Tried a bunch of options, and we have a good understanding of our stock, what barrels we have, what their profiles are, a general understanding of what can work together and what might not work as well together. So yeah, it's pulling from a bunch of different barrels and working it out, spending some time with it. And our goal in blending is never to chase a flavor profile. That doesn't work well. It's to pick whiskeys that can combine and complement each other and guide them to where they work the best together. It's not pushing them in a direction, it's following them in the direction they want to go.
And then I noticed on the small batch, it says it's a blend of 25 barrels or less. So, I mean, true small batch. I mean, that nobody really has a definition of what small batch is, but I find it admirable that you put that out there and you're just like, this is our batch size.
Yeah. So like you're saying, it's an underdefined term, probably needs a little more verbiage behind it, but
There's some
for
big
us,
small batches out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did want to really have a small batch. So yeah, maximum of 25 barrels. The batches for the first group of batches of our small batch are 22 barrels, actually.
Mm.
So unless there are some underfilled barrels that we need to put another barrel in to meet the blend percentages, it'll always be under 25. But
Yeah.
yeah, so truly small batches, and then that product being a blend of 5, 6, and 7-year-old. The 5-year-old being our red, white, and blue corn bourbon. So yeah, and we did a low entry proof on that so that we could get the water aging with the whiskey and get a little better flavor out of that product. Something
Yeah.
we
Put it
think.
in the barrel at 103.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
The barrel
Wow,
at
Wow.
that's
103.
extremely low.
Yeah, yeah, very low. Yeah, and
It's
Yeah.
a really beautiful whiskey on its own, right? And we like these, like every whiskey we got on their own, but our goal is to make them a little better,
Yeah.
blending them.
Yeah. So you say that the 5 years, the red, white, and blue corn bourbon, is that the mash bill? It's a red, white, and blue corn blend in the mash bill, or were you distilling those separately?
so we do distill them separately, but actually we distill them separately in the same mash bill, but same grain percentages, that is.
Okay.
But this one is a red, white, and blue corns combined in the mash, fermented together, distilled together, and aged together.
And
Interestingly enough, it doesn't. If we take our red, white, and blue corns, distill them separately, right, and try and blend them back at the same percentages, we used a percentage we thought would be good in this red, white, and blue blend. And if we distill them separately and blend them back in those ratios by doing them separately, they actually come out with a little different flavor than they do
Yeah.
together. So it's really
Mm.
interesting.
And for your older stocks that go in there that you all have sourced, are you looking at higher proof, right? Because it looks like, you may have only lost a little bit of proof on your 5-year own make whiskey. How'd you all land at that 102 proof, right? Because I love the fact that none of these are like overproofed. Like, amen. Thank you. High five to you all, because I'm like the knock your socks off, blow fire out of your nostrils drinks. Me personally. But Scott is as well. I think I can speak for him on that one. So kudos to you all. But how'd you all land on that 102? Like, how did you blend back down to that? Because that's always one of the things I find interesting is how do you land on the proof that you want?
Yeah, so happy to hear you say that. I like some high proof stuff, but it doesn't always have to be high proof. There's
Yeah.
different proofs for different times, and different proofs complement different whiskeys better than other whiskeys. I mean, so for us, we do what we call flavor proofing, kind of a term that we've coined, and think it plays a big part in our final product, which for us, what that means is rather than proofing low for cost or volume, or proofing cask strength to have a marketing term on our bottle, we spend a lot of time proofing different blends as we're blending the whiskeys. So we're not just picking a final blend and then trying that final blend at a few different proofs. We're trying multiple blends. Once we've kind of focused in on an area, we're picking a bunch of different blends, trying them up and down the proof range to find a proof and blend that complement each other the best. Because you guys know, water pulls different flavors out of a whiskey. The same flavors aren't going to be prominent in a whiskey. I mean, maybe, but probably not at 115 proof as they are at 95 proof of the same whiskey. You're going to get different
Yeah.
things out of it. There will be different forward flavors. So we do spend a lot of time testing these proofs out so that we can fine tune the whiskey. And yeah, 102 proof for the small batch is where it came out. And a lot of times the goal with proofing, like you said, is to have a smooth whiskey. We want it to be smooth and low enough proof that it is that, but high enough proof that you still get the fullness of flavor that comes with that, and finding a balance between those two things. And I think for this 102 proof on the small batch, it's at a really good point where it is approachable for a novice drinker, still smooth enough, but has that full flavor that a veteran whiskey drinker would want from a bourbon.
Yeah, and I love the fact that on the bottle twice it says on what you were just talking about, flavor and proof, right? I feel like we sometimes associate with like, oh, full flavor at cask strength, right? But there's an art of blending that back and creating the flavor profile that you think mass consumers would enjoy. And I think this is a very approachable caramel corn nuttiness like bourbon. It's very traditional, Scott. I mean, I think this is right up your alley. Like, I think the corn is very accentuated, gives a lot of sweetness, but does give you that bodied roundness. And I think, we're not going to spend time doing tasting notes on the podcast, but I think this one is, if you're a corn bourbon lover, this is it.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, like when these showed up and then the proofs were where they were, 98, 100, 102, I was as happy as could be. I was like, this is perfect. But then like the small batch, it's truly just like nutty corn, and it's got a little fruit to it, which I think is nice. But it doesn't feel thin. It feels like full bodied. And then at 102, I mean, it has a nice little punch, but it's not overbearing, and it drinks like a traditional Kentucky bourbon, and 5, 6, 7 years old. Like, to me, that's kind of the sweet spot anyways. So
Yeah. Definitely quintessential. You've captured Kentucky in a bottle, I think, with the small batch.
Thank you. Yeah, we do taste them up and down that whole proof range, right? And we really do and those landed somewhat close, but they land where they land.
yeah.
We just, every proof point's got a little bit different flavor, and we're just peck around up and down that scale and say, where is the alcohol not inhibiting flavor? And the same degree on the other side, where's the water not washing it out? And I guess the other thing we were thinking about, besides and proof has an effect in it, but other things do too, is that, and you were talking about it, Scott, is that mouthfeel.
Mm,
That's a really, really important component of a great whiskey. And I don't think it gets enough discussion or thought, but mouthfeel is that proof will affect it. And filtration is a big effect, right? Well, it doesn't say
yeah.
non-chill filtered on here. These are non-chill filtered. But even more than that, we dial the filtration back on all our whiskeys to the lightest filtration. We don't need any pieces of a char of a barrel in the bottle, right? We're going to make sure that doesn't happen, but we're also going to make sure that all those flavor components in that whiskey come through. And
Yeah.
that comes through in flavor and in mouthfeel.
Yeah, I will say about each of these is they do have body. And I think that's what you want to create is the body when it comes to whiskey, right? I think that's the next step. Like, for a lot of whiskey drinkers, you can pick up some base notes, but it's, can you feel, is it thin? Do you like it thin? Is it thick and viscous? Is it chewy, right? Like, how does it describe on your palate? I think that's the next level for a lot of whiskey drinkers to, take that step in describing what they're feeling, is that mouthfeel component. Because the flavor profiles, we all grew up in different households. Well, Rick and Ricky, you didn't, but like, Rick's mom cooked something, grandma cooked something a certain way, and that's how Rick grew up. And your mom cooked something, and, you got to experience these things at different things. And so our flavor profiles are similar, but they're all different, right? Because we all come from different areas. So how you might describe it, I might not, but like, we can understand full body, thickness, viscosity.
Yeah.
Like, is it watery? Is it, thin? That's different, I think that's the next level for a lot of bourbon drinkers is figuring out that mouthfeel component.
Yeah. It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a big component of an awesome whiskey.
And you all have been known for putting out extra aged product. And so you kept it extra aged in this, but keeping it in the 8 to 9 range, which also keeps this affordable, from a price point perspective. We haven't hit on the prices in particular, but this, again, all under $100. And this, you're targeting everyday consumption for these bottles where you can go out and buy these. So the extra age 8 and 9, these are source components, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Yeah, they are.
Our own whiskey is not in that product.
Gotcha.
We'd
And
love
we
to have
thought-
8-year-old.
Yeah, and we will, right? We're a couple of years from it. But yeah, the 8 and 9-year-old, we just thought that's kind of a classic age. If you go around the industry and say, where is bourbon just fully mature? And, maybe a lot of people would say at its best, kind of at that 8 and 9-year-old range. And so we thought that ought to be our top end. And to your point on price, I mean, where our 15 stars is $140 and above. Small batch suggested retail $59.
Yeah.
Listed 69, extra aged 8 and 9-year-old $79. So we're trying to Yeah, and we can, right? We can find some great whiskeys. We don't have double digit age whiskey in it to get to those prices, right? But what we were able to do in the small batch and the toasted oak is bring those extra corn flavors, and we'll be able to bring those into the older flavors over time.
Yeah.
It's that blend. You mentioned family and eating at family, and really some of this comes from my mom.
Yeah.
And she would always say, when you make an apple pie, you don't make it from one kind of apple. You get
Mm.
2 or 3 kinds of apples, and that blend of flavors produces the very best apple pie. I'm sure a strawberry pie or rhubarb pie is great. In fact, I like both of them, but a strawberry rhubarb, I mean, it's that bringing flavor profiles together that complement each other, and being able to take the time and understand how to bring those flavors together is kind of part of how we got to where we're at, is
Yeah.
thinking about that.
Now I'm thinking about apple pie and what
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
good.
apples, and then what kind of apples I would put in my apple pie.
A golden
I think,
delicious is a good start for one.
yeah, I was thinking I'm a Honey Crisp guy, so
Yeah,
Honey
that would
Crisp
be
is
that'll go in there.
yeah,
Add a little bit of, a
yeah,
spark to it. Yeah.
exactly. And then I was thinking, you might want to go with like a Granny Smith to give some tartness
Yeah.
to it with to balance out the sugar.
But
So
that's kind of exactly what happens is whiskey. If you think about that golden delicious, it's a wonderful apple, but it's a little mellow, right? It doesn't
yeah,
have that spark that, a Honey Crisp, you throw that in there, it's gonna go with it great.
to give a little pop, and then you add the tartness to a Granny Smith, and then you got your butter and sugar. You got to have your butter and sugar in there, because if not, like,
Lots
did
of
you do
butter,
it?
lots of
Did
sugar.
did you do it right?
So now you know the secret to our blending.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Grandmas are good for a
Culinary.
lot of things, and now we know that grandmas are good for blending.
They inform whiskey making.
Hey, uh, our bellies are all the happier for it. Oh man, that's awesome. So how did you all land on the toasted oak? That was, kind of, you all have had an affinity for finishing and doing some other things. So, you could have gone with a secondary maturation in a pick a whatever barrel, but toasted, popular, but not as popular as it has been, I think, over the last several years. So how'd you land on the toasted oak component for that in the last barrel?
Yeah, so for us, a toasted profile is something that we really enjoy, but we think a lot of times it can be potentially overdone. And
Mm,
for our product, we just wanted to add an oaky accent to it. And the same with all our barrel finishing, where it's not about giving the whiskey the flavor of whatever barrel you're finishing it in. It's about still having the flavor of the distillate that you blended together and accenting it with whatever the barrel is. So not overpowering, but accenting. And so for the toasted oak, we thought that it could bring some great toasted oak flavors to the product. And in doing that, we as blenders love to make things a little bit complicated and blended multiple toast profiles into this to bring some different flavors. Not all toasted barrels are created equal. One of the types of barrels that the product's finished in is, I would call, a heavy toast and pretty oak forward. That's 40% of the blend, and then 60% is a sweeter toast that's kind of butterscotch, caramel, brown sugar notes, and we aged in those different profiles for 4.5 weeks. So a decent amount of time for a finish, but I think you'll find moderately finished, not overly finished with those toasted flavors. And the blend is still a 5, 6, and 7-year-old, the same as our small batch. 5-year-old still being our red, white, and blue corn bourbon, and the 7-year-old is the same, but for the 6-year-old, we went with a slightly higher rye content bourbon than the small batch had. Small batch is slightly lower rye content, slightly higher malted barley, but yeah, created a little different starting profile for that and added the toast.
mm.
Jake, if I had to guess, this is probably your favorite.
No, so I like this one. I think it gives a little zip. I think it actually drinks a little bit more zippy than the 102 proof. I do like when you try all these kind of side by side, the caramel note in this one I think just explodes through the roof. But there's something about like the extra age grassy note that I really like. There's like a little bit
Yeah,
of
there
like
is.
old barrel house funk grass kind of thing
Definitely.
happen there that I liked in the extra aged. But the toasted's fun. I'm excited to play in this with like a old fashioned. I think this would be really cool just to play, to give it some more zip, you know, persimmon bitters versus just, your regular like Angostura. So like bolster the fruit to go along with the sweetness that I think this exudes. But, I don't think you could go wrong with any of the three. It depends on what your price point is for the day when you're going into your favorite liquor store. I think you'd be hard pressed to beat the small batch and the toasted oak. I think they're really good. But if you have a little extra coin in your pocket, I think the extra age might be my favorite of the bunch. And of course I picked
Yeah.
the most expensive one.
So to two things you said there, one of them being, I think a cool part of the trio is they're all very different. They
Yep.
kind of cover a broad range of palates. So I think there really is one for everybody, no matter what kind of bourbon you like. And then for the extra age, you said the kind of grassy note in it. I forget how else you described it, but I believe what would be covering that is one of the 8-year-olds we use. There's 2 8-year-olds in it. One of them is a high malted barley content that makes up, it's only 10% of it, but being that high malted barley content really provides a lot of flavor. And that's part of what's interesting about blending, is there's certain whiskeys that it takes almost none of to make a large impact on the flavor, and that's what that high malted barley bourbon mash bill was in that. And I think it rounds it out very nicely, gives it some deeper flavors. I always think kind of dark fruits from that, but also the grassy notes that you mentioned. So
Yeah, I think that they're all really, really solid, but that one just kind of, I think it's so different compared to the rest of it. I think that's why it stands out a little bit too.
yeah, that product, Extra Age, we've been entering all these in competitions already. The Extra Age was a 97 out of 100 rating from San Francisco, and 95 from the International Wine and Spirits competition. So it's already holding its
Not
weight.
bad.
Yeah, it's holding its weight against the
Good
15
start.
stars release
Good
this
start.
Yeah. Light work. Scott, I mean, just curious, I gave my kind of like high level thoughts, where are you sitting?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the toasted, which I typically don't really care for a lot of toasted whiskeys. I just like regular small batch type bourbons, but this toasted, it has that caramel, like toffee. It's just rich, and it's almost like Werther's candies.
Yeah.
It's just on the nose is so inviting, and then the palate is just like rewarding. You're like, that's why I wanted to dive into this.
One of the
Mhm.
things about that toasted that we think helps set it out a little bit is it really is. I mean, it's a whiskey we love, absent the toast. And at 5, 6, and 7 years old, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of toasted product out there that's really younger, right?
Yeah.
And the toast is used to kind of advance it a little bit, where here
Mhm.
we didn't do that. We got a whiskey that's fully mature, 5, 6, and 7-year-old. I don't know what the 7-year-old percent on that one is. Do you know, Ricky? I
It's
forget. Was it 45 or
40.
40? Yeah. So a bunch of that is kind of heavy 7, and so it's a fully mature whiskey, a great whiskey standalone with an accent of toast, like Ricky was saying, which really makes it makes it stand out a little bit. And there are others out there that do like that. And when we compare, we compare against what we think are. Ricky was talking about the Cornerstone Rye earlier, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we got a slate of whiskeys, and we buy what we think are the very best and what sell for on the secondary market for the highest price. We buy all those. And as we're putting our whiskeys together, we test them against those whiskeys, and they won't be that, right? They'll be their own thing, but we want them to set in that context of, when you have what are the very best toasted whiskeys? And when we put one out, we want it to fit in. So if you're going to enjoy it right along with the very best is
Yeah.
our goal.
Well, I mean, I think y'all are doing something great. And, speaking of, there's some other things on the horizon, right? We're talking about the new rebrand and the First West, Kentucky Bourbon Festival is right around the corner. And,
Yeah.
you all can't come to KBF and not have something special. So you teased us a little bit. So tell us about what's releasing at Kentucky Bourbon
We're
Festival.
obviously going to have the 3 First West, but then we're bringing a new release to KBF. And so this is our Artisan Collection, 15 stars, our classic older whiskey. So a blend of 12 and 15-year-old. So you know, again, high aged, just a beautiful whiskey, and just won in the spring here the Barleycorn Awards Best Bourbon. So one of the best of bourbons that we're able to bring to the market. So we'll release first at KBF, and if there's some bottles left, we'll release them wherever they go.
There's 7,000 hungry bourbon people coming to Kentucky Bourbon Festival. So
Probably right. Well, there's not 7,000 bottles. So.
We'll point them in your direction to make sure you can sell as many as you possibly can.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're excited about this one. We love to come out with one. And, you know, when that won that award, we thought maybe we should just rush it to market, right? And then we thought, no, let's just save it for KBF.
Well, it's the time that you get with the bourbon aficionados, right, at Kentucky Bourbon Festival that's kind of second to none for market feedback. They'll tell you what they like because they'll buy it. If they like it, they'll buy it. And I think that's the pretty cool thing about it.
Now for KBF, will you guys be back in the Evergreens tent, or how will that work?
Evergreen's not doing it this year, so Bardstown Bourbon Company has a tent that will house some of their affiliates, and so we'll be in the Bardstown tent.
Yeah, because I think we ended our Saturday afternoon at y'all's spot.
Yeah. We enjoyed that. We love working with Evergreen, but they decided not to do it this year, and so we teamed up with Bardstown.
So now everybody knows where to find you.
I love that even better because you all be right in the middle of the action and you won't be secluded. And, you know, I think that gives you all a good opportunity, and also an opportunity to talk about your all's collaboration, right? Tells your story a little bit more and makes it come to life. So Kentucky Bourbon Festival is not far away. We are under a month. I can't believe it. Ready to rock and roll the first week of September. Excited to see you guys. Thank you for, you know, sharing this whiskey with us, so that we can try to help amplify your all's story, because you all are on a great path. So really appreciate your all's time this evening, and look forward to continued success, but also seeing you all here in a couple weeks here in Bardstown.
We'll look forward to seeing you, and thanks for having us on the show. We really, really appreciate it, and thank you.
Always fun to chat.
Absolutely.
Yep. Always good to connect. We'll catch everybody next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks, y'all.
Thank you.